The window for emergency evacuation efforts in Afghanistan is closing fast. U.S. President Joe Biden is sticking to his August 31st deadline to withdraw American troops, and Canadian evacuation efforts face an even earlier cutoff point. Canada could have just 24 to 48 hours to get planes in and out of Kabul, according to a government source. And the number of flights remaining are limited.
We are going to continue to do absolutely everything we can to get as many people out of Afghanistan in the coming days as we possibly can. Yes, in the coming days, this phase will end, but there's a lot more work to do that we will continue to do to keep helping the Afghan people.
Canada has airlifted more than 2,700 people out of Kabul, including Afghan refugees, Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and other foreign nationals. Thousands of Afghans eligible to come to Canada remain stranded. Kevin Newman is a retired journalist and broadcaster. He's now a volunteer with the Veterans Transition Network and is actively involved in the humanitarian effort to get Afghan contractors and their families out of Afghanistan. Kevin, good to see you again. And you wrote a really compelling piece on this recently that I recommend everyone read when they get an opportunity. But before we begin our chat, just explain the background of your involvement in this and why it is so very important to you to talk about what's going on.
So like many veterans across Canada, there are a lot of journalists who spent time reporting in Afghanistan. We have the dust in our teeth, I suppose, and we used interpreters, we used fixers in those places. So many of us have a very personal relationship to this story. We know the people that are attempting to come to Canada. Many journalists and many veterans have tried to help those people by filling out the paperwork and by advocating on their behalf. And so I'm just volunteering to try to sensitize people. And the other thing I've been doing, I've created a bit of what we call in the business, as you know, Kathleen, a stringer network. So I've been in contact with a number of Afghans who have been in this process, asking them to report secondhand because there are no currently Canadian reporters in Kabul. So we've had to rely on secondhand information, but because I had skills as a journalist, I thought maybe I could be put to good use.
And indeed, really, your telling of what's going on is the work of a journalist. Certainly that is my read of your column. So I would hesitate to describe you as retired because I wouldn't call this. So tell me about what you've learned from talking to your sources, to people on the ground, what the circumstances are that folks are facing, and what the insufficiencies are of the Canadian effort from your point of view.
Right. So let's talk about right now. Right now, what we are hearing from Afghans that we've been in touch with, and these are multiple sources, is that there is virtually no way to get into the airport. The Taliban has secured the perimeter around it and is no longer allowing anybody but foreign nationals through. So if you have a Canadian passport, you might get through. If you're an Afghan citizen, as most of these people are that we've been watching, you're not getting through. In fact, several of them were beaten today, and there are reports as well that the Taliban has taken over the security positions inside, where hundreds of Afghan interpreters and their families have been sitting, frankly, in a sewage ditch for 2 days, waiting for someone to come to them to bring them onto the flight. That area was guarded previously by soldiers, including soldiers from Canada. Today, those soldiers are not there. Instead, that group of people, hundreds of them, are being guarded by the Taliban. What we don't know is whether the Canadian Armed Forces that still remain on the tarmac, and we understand that to be about a dozen or more, are going to come and try to pull those people out, or whether they're not going to engage the Taliban. So it's a very delicate, dire situation right now. We believe that there is another plane to come, and I heard the minister saying that there would be more attempts. But right now we have people locked in an area under Taliban guard on the inside, and around the outside we have Taliban everywhere who are not allowing anybody from any country who is on foot to get in. Now, several other countries have hired buses and security guards. I don't know how they're doing because all I'm able to track is the progress of about 800 Afghans.
Now, obviously, Canada does not have the capacity the U.S. has because we left many years ago. Americans at least still had resources on the ground, and they just have more resources, generally speaking. So as you look at the situation, just how optimistic are you that that Canada is going to be able to do a significant amount, a noticeable amount over the next 24 to 48 hours?
No, not much.
No.
And I hate to say that to everybody who's like me, hearing from Afghan interpreters asking what's happening. What can you tell me? I mean, right now, I mean, part of the issue that we have, you're right. I mean, we don't have a lot of capacity because we left. We're also the only country in the alliance who pulled its embassy entirely, its ambassador. So we don't have any diplomatic people on the ground to be able to negotiate with the new Taliban government for safe patches of Canadians. It's mostly being run from Ottawa. So that's an added difficulty. There hasn't been a lot of communication from the Canadian government to these people of what they should do. They are, however, last night we saw a surge of approvals from IRCC, which is the Immigration Ministry. Suddenly, about 40 more families were given visas. Sadly, that was much too late because by the time they got the visa that said they could come to Canada and were told to go to the airport, the Taliban had surrounded it and were beating them.
Oh, Kevin, so as the deadline comes, and as we suggested, you know, it's the 31st officially, but for Canada, it's really before the 31st because we have to be sort of extricate ourselves before that happens, clearly. What happens after? I mean, is there a path? Is there a strategy for getting the many that will clearly be left behind?
That's what we're asking. I work with some veterans at senior levels, including 3 former brigadier generals who commanded the mission in Afghanistan. We are asking for guidance on exactly that, because it seems to us from our data, and we're tracking this very, very closely, we were watching about 2,000 Afghan interpreters and their families, 2,000 people who had applied and were in various levels of success. So far, we think only 400 of the 2,000, and these are broad numbers, have succeeded in making their way through that airport. We do not expect any more to. We're encouraging the government to continue to provide those visas, because if they are told, and this has to come, I think, from the Canadian government, that there is no hope, these people have to make some very hard choices. Don't forget, they have targets on their back. The Taliban knows who they are. They know they helped Canadian soldiers when our mission ended up to 2014 rather. They have to make some very hard choices with their family in tow. So if the Canadian government can give them some guidance, that would be good, because right now they're hanging on every hope. But from everything that we are seeing and being told, hope for them for an airlift to Canada is all but vanishing.
We will leave it there for now, but I fully expect to hear more from you over the course of the next number of days and weeks. Kevin, good to see you, and thanks very much for your reporting and insight. Appreciate it.
Nice to see you back on TV, Kathleen.
Oh, thanks. It's good to be seen, Kevin. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.